This is Anthony from Supernal Magazine, and we have the lovely Katie Underwood with us. Welcome to our interview series.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, so Katie, you're big into sound, but let's start with a bit of a journey. Where did you first get into music?
So music's always been a part of my life. I started unofficially, I think, at the age of 2. My mother said I would sing to anything and everything, including adverts on the TV, which would drive her mad. But formal training started when I was 6. I started playing the piano, and then at age 9 I joined my school choir. So I had a real love and an early talent for singing. By age 11 I was invited to enter 3 different choirs in Adelaide, decided on the Adelaide Girls Choir, and then stayed with them for a good 5 years. So my foundational learning in music, I think, really set me up for what would be a very interesting lifelong passion with music. After that time I moved to Melbourne. I discovered jazz music. I mentored with a guy called Charlie Rook in Melbourne for many years, and we started performing in jazz. And then this huge distraction called pop stars entered my life, and I joined a pop band, which was never on my plan, but I saw that as a great opportunity and I took that. And that then led me into the music business for the following 10 years, which was very exciting, but also very stressful. Over time, I guess that ran its course for me, and I moved into healing from there, probably as a result of some of the issues that I had during my time in the music business. Led me towards a healing path, and then eventually into sound healing and meditation.
What I'd like to do is ask you about then, you talked about the music industry and some of the stresses that were involved in that, and we know and you confirmed you went through a really deep depression stage. Has this music and being able to play this style of healing energy music helped you through all of that? Where did that start and how is it now?
Was that the question?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, look, my depression peaked when I realised I no longer wanted to be in my marriage. So there were multiple things going on at that time in my life. So my music career in the pop realm had been really jarring and sort of come to an abrupt end through being done over by my management company, done over by the record industry, and really sort of put through the ringer in some degrees by the media at points. And at the same time, my marriage was breaking down. So that all happened around the same time. And after leaving my marriage, I then fell into a next relationship very quickly. But more than that, I fell into a really strong relationship with alcohol and pot or marijuana, which was not good for me. So depression affects people differently. For me, I think my light bulb moment was about 6 months after I'd fallen into my hole, and I realised I wasn't singing anymore. And singing's such an integral part of who I am. That was my aha moment, to realise that I was depressed. And although it was a result of external influences, the drugs and alcohol that I was using at that point certainly wasn't helping. And so that then began my journey of recovery. Initially out of obviously the haze of drugs and alcohol, and then the emotional recovery and eventually the spiritual journey that led me to be able to kind of see things from both sides, to understand the dark elements that people go through with deep healing, but to discover some of the wonderfully positive ways we can lift that and then inspire and heal ourselves.
It's a powerful journey, really, isn't it, for anyone, because it is different for everybody. No two people suffer exactly the same things, and a lot of people in this music industry and in film and all these media arts all seem to go through some really dark times because of how they're treated. Seems rather brutal.
I think the unfortunate thing about gearing your life around music performance is that it's combined with a lot of isolation. You're often travelling on the road, whether you're with a band or, as I was, a solo artist. So there's a lot of social isolation, which drives people into that feeling of needing to reach for something, for some comfort. And often artists, if you're signed to a record label, are overworked, chronically overworked. There is no such thing as a day off. The day off is you sleep on the bus on the way to the next gig or the next your state. And then, of course, the other obvious enabler in the industry is the artist's rider. Now, for those not in the industry who don't know what that is, the rider is basically a bucket of alcohol that the promoters or the venue will provide for you before you start work.
Okay.
And I don't know any other industry where you arrive at work, let's say you're a plumber, a builder, and your boss shows you a bucket of beer and says, do you want to kick off with a coldie before you start your job? We wouldn't dream of it. And yet, in the music business, that's exactly what happens. You arrive, here's the alcohol you ordered, now do a great gig. So there's not only no support for people who don't drink, even if you don't drink when you start in the business, it becomes very much part of the norm. The drinking before the gig and then the celebrating every gig after the gig, and before you know it, you can't remember the last day that you didn't have a drink or a smoke or worse. So for me, that was a really tough part of the music business.
And so obviously, though, that journey has led you to this sound healing energy work that you do now, and all those gifts that you do. So what brought you into that energy field, that working with music and sound in a different way?
I think it's probably worth saying that the bridging part of that journey was to move away from music performance and into a healing path. So the first step for me was actually while I was in rehab for a few weeks, I was inspired by the counsellors and kinesiologists and meditation teachers and personal trainers, people that I was working with one-on-one, by what impact they were having on me. And I thought, wow, I want to be them. I want to be a version of that. What does that look like for me? And then I remembered as a child, I'd been very interested in massage as well as music. So I started my training as a massage therapist. From massage, Reiki soon followed. From Reiki, meditation soon followed. And of course, I began practicing meditation regularly from those early days in rehab. And then it was through deep meditation and my own connection with my own spirit guides that gave me the information. This is what you need to be doing. And quite honestly, that's where the impulse came from. And from there, I started seeking out the information and the training that I needed to deliver this healing in this way, and to finally combine my talent and passion for music with my talents and passion with healing. And the two just came together.
It's such a beautiful story to hear, because sound is so important in everybody's lives. And yet they don't take any notice of it. It doesn't matter whether it's pop music or reggae or jazz. It's music, it's vibration. And that's I guess your thing, isn't it? It's you want people to experience what that vibration does to their body.
I think everyone is connected to music. There's very few people I know that don't listen to music of some sort or other. But I think it's a shift in really understanding the value of those vibrations, good and bad. A bit like television. If you're always watching crime shows and shows about people getting killed and worse, that imagery, those feelings, those experiences are going to affect you on a physical level. Whereas if you're watching heartwarming or opening television shows, that's going to have a much more positive impact on your mental state. And I think the same can be said for music. If the music that you're listening to is mindless hip hop about hoes and jewelry and shopping, what is that really doing to your mindset and your body? Whereas if you're listening to artists, whether that's in the sound healing realm or folk music or other spiritual music or mantra music that is uplifting you and helping you feel healed and calm and connected to either yourself or to others, big difference. So I'm really just capturing that essence of how positive music can really affect people, whether it's just casually listening for enjoyment or working with people one-on-one in a private session.
Typically with your events that you do, you said to me before, you like to cater for bigger audiences rather than one-on-one.
Absolutely enjoyed the years where I was doing one-on-one treatments, and it certainly enabled me to work very closely with people and to heighten my own intuitive senses in that realm. It's a very different way of working. But I found, because of the length of time I would need in a personal session to really connect with people, the cost started to go up. I had to be fair to myself, and I just found it was getting out of reach of a lot of people. So where a personal session might cost $100 or $200, people can come along to an event for closer to $50 and get a couple of hours worth of vibrational healing, guided meditation, vocal toning, and still get a powerful, powerful session. So they get to drop into that space at a much more accessible price point. I get to deliver it to more people who need it. It's not that I have to be with large groups, anywhere from 10 or 20 to up to 100. It's just wherever the need is. But for me, my mission is to reach as many people as I can, to inspire as many people as I can, to discover what method of healing works for them. And if that happens to be sound healing, I can help.
Beautiful. I just love the feeling. So listeners out there that are watching this, or watchers, viewers, the sense of energy and love that's coming out of this interview is absolutely really just gorgeous, because you can feel it. So I'm hoping you're getting that through the camera. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of your instruments. You've got a few things here to discuss. So
Sure.
let's cut it off at this point, and we'll start looking at some of your instruments.
Okay.